The master bedroom.
It was the most horrific, depraved murder I've ever seen as the district attorney in this county.
When you think about the terror that these two people just asleep in their own bed, where we all feel the most secure, and you wake up to this horror movie happening to you.
My mom was my best friend. I never remember a day that I didn't speak with her or giggle with her. She was my world. She had been single for a while, and she had decided that she was ready to settle down. Well, it wasn't a couple of months, and my mother called me and reported to me that she had met a man, and his name was Chip Northup. And he was so smart and brilliant, and they were like Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy meeting over the pews at the Unitarian Church. And from that moment, they were inseparable. She didn't want to be away from Chip. And she went with Chip. They went together in their home, in their bed.
If you talk to many of the officers, they'll say that what an impact this case has had on them, just going to the crime scene and seeing how horrific the torture inflicted on these two humans, Chip and Claudia, really was.
I was certain that they were going to find some forensic evidence in the crime scene. A fingerprint, DNA, shoe prints, something. They found nothing.
How soon did you hear that there was no evidence? That this looked like the perfect crime?
I think we were 2 months into it.
Yeah.
We brought 25 FBI agents, experienced task force officers from other areas, and we really flooded that neighborhood.
We thought it had to be somebody close to Chip and Claudia, something that happened where there was a disagreement, some family dispute, because it did appear to be so personal.
It was a very scary time because nobody knew who had done it.
Davis Police Emergency.
Oh, yeah. Can this be anonymous?
What are you reporting?
Double homicide.
When this tip came in, it seemed really strange. It didn't seem to match what any of us had thought.
The reason why I want to remain anonymous is because if my mom finds out, she will send me to military school.
Dumbfounded.
We were dumbfounded. How do you wrap your mind around a 15-year-old killer?
"48 Hours, Portrait of a Killer," reported by Erin Moriarty.
Take a ride through Davis, California, and you'll see why the college town has been named one of this country's best places to live, and why Claudia Maupin moved here.
She loved living in college communities. So she loved being around all the young people and all the new ideas.
Victoria Hurd says Davis was one of California's safest cities when her mother first arrived in 1995 and started attending services at this Unitarian church, hoping to meet her third husband.
She had been a spiritual traveler through many different religions and denominations, and she just had fallen in love with the Unitarian Church. So she said to me, my husband is at the Unitarian Church.
Claudia soon met Oliver Chip Northup, one of the church's founders. Well known for his social activism, Northup was a World War II veteran and a prominent attorney. Like Claudia, Chip had been married several times, but according to his firstborn daughter, Mary, the couple's families blended easily.
Claudia had that ability to make every person that she spent time with feel that special, so that they would come away and say, she's my best friend.
Both Chip and Claudia's families were thrilled when the couple decided to marry in 1996.
I would think then the church was filled with the
Filled.
family.
Oh, it was packed.
It was filled.
Did you two ever worry about their safety?
No, absolutely not. No. They had an idyllic life. They had so many loved ones around them. They had so many great neighbors. They lived in Davis.
Claudia and Chip had been married for 17 years when on the night of Saturday, April 13, 2013, they said goodnight to each other for the very last time. The next morning at church, the couple was noticeably absent.
I called, and I called his number, and I called Claudia's number, and they both went to voicemail.
Chip was in a local folk band. When he didn't show up for a gig that afternoon, Chip's son Robert and a grandson paid a visit to Chip and Claudia's condo.
Rang the doorbell and no one answered. Everything I saw indicated they were out of town.
Robert had a key, but chose not to use it. Later that evening, Claudia's stepdaughter Laura also rang the bell. When there was no answer, she went around back and saw this open window with its screen slashed. One look through the bedroom window, and Laura knew that something awful had happened.
She saw bloodstains. She saw enough that she made a call to get other people over there.
The next morning, there's 12 missed calls from my sister. She said, there's been a break-in, and there are 2 dead bodies in the house. And then I lost it. My brain couldn't process that.
Victoria had to call her daughter Sarah and break the news. But all the police would share is that Claudia and Chip had been stabbed multiple times.
I was like, multiple? What does multiple mean?
Yeah.
Is there a certain number that we should know? And the coroner said, all I can tell you is that multiple means more than 12.
It would be just over a year before they learned that Chip had 61 stab wounds. Claudia had 67.
That's 128 stab wounds. How does anybody even have the strength to do that? And why would somebody want to do that?
But that wasn't even the worst of it. Davis Police Lieutenant Paul Doroshow says the killer had experimented with the bodies and had placed a cell phone into Claudia's abdomen and a drinking glass into Chip's stomach.
We thought that, well, maybe there's some type of meaning to it, but we were trying to latch on to every detail we could to help us with this case.
The office?
But there was little to latch on to. There was no physical evidence, not even a shoe print.
The place isn't ransacked. There's no valuables missing. Clearly, this is not a burglary that was interrupted.
Former Special Agent Chris Campion says that even the FBI profilers were stumped, unsure if they were dealing with one killer or more, or if the open window was even the point of entry.
Here's that the screen is been cut through on the edges.
I think they had at this point developed the story that somebody with the key had done it, and that they'd cut this hole in the screen to divert attention.
To make it look like someone
so
had
that
broken
when
it.
if you come up with that theory, then you have to look at family members.
FBI agents had, called us all individually, and you could tell that they were doing everything in their power to get answers, but there was nothing.
Until they got to Chip's son Robert and his 2 sons, Oliver and Tony. Oliver suffers from schizophrenia.
We lived in the same town, not very far away. It would have not have been logistically difficult for one of us to have gone over there and done that.
Robert also had that key to the condo.
Oliver, did you know that the police were looking at you and your brother?
Well, yeah, they asked us to come in for questioning, and I agreed.
And that first day, it was about 8 hours of questioning. The next day, it was another 6. It was just day after day, long hours of questioning. And I kept thinking, well, my father would want us to cooperate in every way.
Without a lawyer.
Were you scared?
Very nervous.
And with good reason. When police searched Robert's home, they found the kind of evidence that gets people convicted. First, carpeting that had been steam cleaned on the day of the murders.
Yeah, it was bad timing. I didn't anticipate that would be the same weekend my father got murdered. It looked like I was covering up, removing evidence.
Investigators also found a very disturbing drawing by Tony. It was the image of a man with a knife standing over 2 children in a bed.
The only thing I can say is that the 3 of them, they're not violent. If something had clicked and turned them violent, it would never have been for these 2 people.
Did either one of you think that was possible?
No,
never.
Never, not for a second, because Chip spent so much time with those boys. Those boys adored him.
The family spent thousands of dollars hiring an attorney for Tony and repairing all the damage done by investigators.
Then they cut out the carpet. They took out some of the plumbing fixtures, looking for things that might have been put in the drain. And they also took out a little bit of flooring.
The Northup family, Tony in particular, felt persecuted. And even though his name was eventually cleared, Tony still felt that neighbors had their doubts about him. 3 years after the murders, he would commit suicide. Oliver got this tattoo in memory of him.
You've gone through a lot, haven't you?
Yeah, I think so.
2 months after the murders, police got this call.
What are you calling to report, sir?
The double homicide that happened in April this year.
What can you tell me about that?
Everything, actually.
A 17-year-old Davis High School student called to say he knew who killed that couple. It was his best friend.
Daniel Marsh.
Daniel Marsh?
Yeah, Daniel Marsh or Dan Marsh.
Daniel Marsh was a name that Yolo County District Attorney Jeff Reisick had heard years earlier, but not in connection with a crime.
All of a sudden, he passed out and sort of flew back in.
At the time, he was viewed as a young hero. He had saved his father's life.
Right? He was the hero of the day.
At 10, Marsh was given an American Red Cross Heroes Award after using CPR to save his father from a heart attack.
I remember thinking at that time, this kid's going places.
It didn't seem possible. Could that young hero really have grown up to be the vicious killer investigators were hunting for?
When you first saw Daniel Marsh, what was your reaction?
Total shock that a boy was responsible for these crimes.
No one imagined, says District Attorney Jeff Reisick, that the depraved killer of Chip Northup and his wife Claudia might turn out to be a 15-year-old teenager. And certainly not this teenager who had once saved a life, his father's, Bill Marsh.
This is Daniel in 2009.
At the time of the murders, Bill Marsh lived next door to Claudia and Chip.
And I chose that location because it was in walking distance of their mothers.
That's where Daniel lived, at his mother Sherry's house. And it's where he was staying on the night of the murders. The day the bodies were discovered, Bill Marsh was home recovering from back surgery when police showed up at his door.
Knock, knock, knock on the door. Hi, I'm so-and-so with the police. Do you know Chip and his wife? And I said, no, I don't know anybody. I just moved in.
About 2 weeks after the murders, Bill Marsh says he could no longer afford the rent and moved out.
Remember very vividly, one of the neighbors came up and said, hey, I don't know if this is relevant or not, but several days after the murder, the guy in that house moved out. And we didn't think much about it at that time.
And investigators might never have focused on Daniel Marsh if not for that phone call from 17-year-old Alvaro Garibay, 2 months after the crime, accusing his best friend of murder.
Well, he talked about killing people a lot. I didn't really take it seriously until, well, killed someone.
So help me understand that this was your best friend.
I know. I don't know if I can help you understand that.
Alvaro says he laughs when nervous. But back then, investigators took him very seriously. He seemed to know way too much about the murders. Gory details known only to a handful of investigators and the killer.
He cut both of them open. It's just to see the insides or something. And then he went to the woman, I think, and he wanted to know how an eye looked like. So he tried taking it out with a knife, but he said it was really hard, so he couldn't do it.
Garibay was interviewed twice, leaving investigators wondering if he was the killer.
Why did it take you until now to speak to us? Because, I don't know, actually. I was afraid.
Alvaro says he finally came forward because Daniel had threatened to kill again. Do you think your life was at risk?
Oh, yeah. Mine, my family's, my friends.
On June 17, 2013, investigators asked the high school resource officer to bring Daniel Marsh in for questioning.
Daniel, right? Yeah.
And he seemed more than happy to talk. It was now up to Davis detective Ariel Pineda and FBI Special Agent Chris Campion to get to the truth.
Did he seem worried about talking to you at all?
No, certainly not at the beginning. I think he figured he could talk his way through it.
What do you know, Dan?
I just know that somebody broke into this old couple's house and stabbed them, killed them.
Investigators would spend the next 3 hours learning all they could about Daniel, looking for a way in.
I was that loner kid that, you know, there's always that one outcast.
Dad and Mom split when you were pretty young?
Yeah.
Wow. And then Mom basically left, abandoned you or your family?
Yeah, for like 3 or 4 months.
Daniel's mother ended her marriage after having an affair with a woman, Daniel's kindergarten teacher, which enraged the 10-year-old.
He hated her. He would tell me that I know this woman was involved in my parents' divorce, and I just want to, like, strangle her to death.
Daniel even tried taking his anger out on himself.
I used to, like, harm myself.
I see his scar too there, yeah.
Yeah.
As near as I understood the cutting phenomenon, it was people who just kind of have this flat, depressed, kind of dark outlook on life. And the cutting actually brings that sense of living.
Campion says Daniel was willing to do anything to feel something, including starving himself.
All the pain and depression and anger just, like, I internalized it and I directed it towards myself.
Daniel was voluntarily committed to an eating disorder clinic for 25 days. And while his anorexia seems to have passed, Alvaro says Daniel's anger continued to consume him.
He would tell me a lot about suicide.
And how old were the two of you? When was that?
Oh, man, I think 14.
I've attempted it 4 times in my life.
It seems there were several therapists and doctors who intervened, trying numerous medications. And then in mid-December 2012, Daniel made a stunning admission, telling a school counselor that he fantasized about killing people.
She was so concerned, they brought the police to the school.
Marsh was shortly hospitalized, but upon release, things got worse.
Did he talk about killing?
He brought it up more. He was just like, I wish that person would die.
But in his police interview, Daniel was denying it all, including the murders of Claudia and Chip.
I don't hurt people.
Then, after 3 hours and 38 minutes of questioning, the facade finally began to crumble.
Why the heck would you just sit here and bald-faced lie to Ariel and me?
You guys are threatening me with...
With what? The truth?
getting arrested for 2 murders. I am so scared right now. Of course, I'm going to do anything I can to try and say that I didn't do this.
That was the first sign that he was getting over that wall, that he was getting ready to talk to us about what really happened.
If you want to help me, then don't ruin my life. If anything, send me to the psychiatric hospital.
But Chris, were you really prepared for what he told you next?
No.
Every time I look at someone, in my mind, I see flashes of images of me killing them.
For more than 3 hours, Daniel Marsh insisted he knew nothing about the murders of Claudia Maupin and Chip Northup, but he began to reveal more and more about himself to Agent Chris Campion.
And all this time I thought about and plotted about killing the woman that my mother left my father for.
What was your plan?
I was going to slit her throat.
Daniel says that was when he began to fantasize about killing people. Eventually, he became obsessed with something called gore porn and a website devoted to it.
I remember just walking into his room and he was like, dude, check this out. And it's literally people getting beheaded.
And how did he react when he was watching those videos?
He just sat there, I think fascinated by it.
But it's one thing to be fascinated and another to actually take a life.
Well, he strangled a cat in the street. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, why'd you do that? And I was like, well, I just wanted to do that. I hated that cat.
At your mom's house.
In the interview room, investigators still hadn't heard Daniel confess to killing Chip and Claudia and pressed on.
When was the first time you started thinking about killing these people down the street?
Yeah, I really am in my heart. I didn't.
Did you start thinking about it?
That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to do it. I lost control.
There it was, the opening that investigator Campion had been hoping for. Daniel admitted that he had been hunting for someone, anyone, to kill that night when he came upon Chip and Claudia's open living room window.
I got a hole in the screen, climbed in through the back, went to their bedroom, I opened the door, and I just kind of stood over their bed watching them sleep for a few minutes. My body was trembling. I was nervous but excited and exhilarated. I was actually going to do it. I was there. It's finally happening.
Without any outward emotion, Daniel described how he repeatedly stabbed Claudia and Chip. What you are about to hear is graphic, but these disturbing details would become key evidence in a family's battle for justice.
I cut open both of their torsos around here, and in the woman I put a phone inside of her, and I put a cup inside the guy.
Daniel said it was all part of his plan to confuse investigators and get away with murder. He also taped the bottom of his shoes so he wouldn't leave prints, and wore a ski mask and gloves so as not to leave behind DNA or fingerprints. But hidden by Daniel in his mother's house, investigators found all the evidence they needed: bloody clothing, and the knife used to kill Chip and Claudia.
Did you wash blood off of it, or did that had to have been fairly covered?
I kept it as a souvenir.
A souvenir to forever remember how much he enjoyed taking 2 lives.
I'm not gonna lie, it felt amazing.
In fact, records show that Daniel was doing so much better in school, he was named Student of the Month after the high of the murders.
It was pure happiness and adrenaline and dopamine, just all of it rushing over me.
After Daniel made a full confession, Chris Campion did something unusual.
You mentioned that pretty much everybody you meet, you have thoughts about killing them and how you would kill them.
Yeah.
So, how would you kill me?
There's a lot of ways. Choking you to death with your tie.
Okay.
Beating your face into the mirror until it broke and using the glass to cut your arteries. Gouging your eyes out and just smashing your face into the wall. It's nothing personal.
Nothing personal?
And I said I didn't take it personally because I didn't. That's his fantasy life.
I mean, Chris, do you believe that Daniel Marsh was a serial killer in training?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. He actually talked about how he was going to take his next victim. He was lurking in the streets of Davis at night with a baseball bat, intending to beat to death some poor passerby.
I don't feel sympathy for other people at all. I don't feel empathy for them.
This was not the act of a broken child who had a rough life. This was the act of somebody who, in my mind, is just evil.
Daniel was immediately arrested and charged with the murders of Chip Northup and Claudia Maupin.
Was there any question whether he would be charged as an adult and be tried in an adult court?
At the time, no, because of the nature of the crime. He had to be tried in adult court.
With Marsh facing life in prison, 2 top public defenders were assigned to his case. Then, Marsh pled not guilty by reason of insanity, something Chris Campion had anticipated.
That's why I'd spent some time with him. I wanted to make clear that he's not somebody who had had a break with reality, somebody who heard voices or had, voices in his head telling him to do things.
Did you ever hear any voices talking to you?
He wasn't anywhere close, in my opinion, to legally insane.
Even psychiatrist Dr. Matthew Soulier, who was hired by the defense, agreed that Daniel was sane, even though when they met, Daniel threatened to kill him.
I didn't find him to be insane. I found him to be mentally ill, but responsible for his crimes. And I think my understanding is that they went ahead and continued to pursue a defense of insanity.
Without Soulier as their expert witness. A year after the murders, Daniel Marsh went on trial. The defense argued that the antidepressant drugs given to Daniel for his anorexia and suicide attempts had caused a temporary insanity.
Zoloft made me do it.
Deputy District Attorney Amanda Zambor wasn't having it.
But when you actually looked at the medical records, he was having these thoughts and fantasies before he was ever on Zoloft.
Bill, I know that you believe that a lot of your son's problems are connected to the medications he was taking, but he had fantasies about killing before he started on the drugs. He killed animals before he started on these drugs.
Yes, I don't know that that's true. There's a whole series of confessions by people who have been on these drugs that have false memories. They believe certain things happened that never did.
The question now was, would the jury agree? Would they find Daniel Marsh insane and decide a psychiatric hospital was more appropriate than prison?
Were you more nervous about that?
Yes, the immediate thought is that somebody would have to be insane to do something like this.
On September 26, 2014, the jury deliberated for just under 2 hours before finding Daniel Marsh guilty of first-degree murder. They also found Marsh sane, allowing the judge to sentence him to the maximum, 52 years to life.
We are very, very pleased with the verdict. For me, we feel justice.
We all exhaled.
Yeah.
I mean, that was great.
But it wasn't over yet, was it?
It wasn't over, Erin. No, it wasn't over.
That's because 2 years later, California voters passed Prop 57 and gave Daniel Marsh a second chance. You'll recall that in this case, District Attorney Reisick made the decision to try Daniel Marsh as an adult. But under the new law, that decision would now have to be made by a juvenile court judge.
How do you call a family that sat through an entire trial? How do you call them up and say, sorry, you have to come back because there's a chance he may end up being pushed back to juvenile court where he would be potentially released at the age of 25.
A judge would now listen to evidence and decide if Daniel Marsh should have been tried as a juvenile. If so, the state might be forced to set Marsh free on his 25th birthday.
He's 21 now, so in about 3.5, 4 years, he would be out with no supervision, no parole. He would just be free.
I went into PTSD.
Immediately.
And I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm moving forward.
But before a hearing date could even be set, a striking video appeared online.
Hurt people, hurt people.
Through a prison rehabilitation program, Daniel Marsh took center stage in his very own TEDx talk.
The secret down, deep down.
Declaring that he's reformed and deserves a second chance.
I came to realize that there are no such things as evil people in this world. Only damaged people.
And I'm watching it like a deer in the headlights, you know? I can't pull my eyes away.
If I kept allowing myself to be trapped by my emotions and to be disconnected.
How dare you, was all I could say to the screen.
Marsh also took the opportunity to raise a shocking new claim that he was the victim here.
When I was a child, I was sexually abused multiple times by 2 different people.
But he wouldn't say by whom, and never even told his best friend.
I don't recall anything like that.
He never talked about being sexually abused.
No. He was asked routinely about trauma and abuse and denied it every time.
I believe he wouldn't say it if it wasn't true.
Bill Marsh stands by his son.
But why wouldn't he have said it earlier?
Knowing Daniel, he probably feels he has some sort of loyalty.
I felt alone and ashamed and disgusting.
You don't believe he was ever abused?
I don't. I think it's a ploy to get sympathy now.
Embrace our humanity.
We knew our first and most important thing to do was to get the video taken down.
Right.
Claudia Maupin's granddaughter, Sarah, took on the challenge.
And within 48 hours, it was gone. It was taken down off of YouTube.
A small victory, but nothing compared to the battle ahead to keep Daniel Marsh behind bars.
All rise, come to order.
Marsh's fate was now in the hands of family court judge Samuel McAdam. Life in prison, or possibly just 4 more years.
Let's go on the record in the matter of Daniel William Marsh.
Marsh's original defense team returned to represent him, attorney Andrea Pellequino.
And I think the court will be overwhelmed by the changes that he has made in a very short amount of time.
Remember Dr. Matthew Soulier, the psychiatrist who Daniel Marsh had threatened to kill? He recently interviewed Marsh again and took the stand this time and said he thought Marsh had changed.
There were distinct differences in his maturity, his empathy,
his insight into himself, his sense of responsibility. I don't think he's worth throwing away, in my opinion.
He's killed 2 people.
Right.
I mean, isn't it possible that's the kind of person who just can't be saved?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all.
Just when everyone thought the defense was going to rest its case, the courtroom was stunned. Daniel Marsh had decided to take his fate into his own hands. The families of Chip and Claudia were horrified when a 21-year-old Daniel Marsh took the stand to plead for his freedom.
And I stared at him the entire time.
I was a really damaged, screwed up, sick kid. Maybe that's still how I come across, and I really hope that that's not the case.
To me, he was doing everything in his power to say the things that would help him in his case.
I mean, it's night and day. You know, I no longer struggle with mental illness. I've worked through the vast majority of my anger and hate. I'm not who I used to be.
While trying to convince the judge, Marsh also took the opportunity to address his victims' families for the first time.
I'm sorry I took them away from you. I can't even bring myself to look at you.
I think he didn't look because he realized he couldn't feign empathy.
It's hard for me to even wrap my mind around how I could have done something that awful. And I guess I've just been afraid to actually face that.
But before Judge McAdam would decide if Marsh should be treated like a juvenile and receive a lighter sentence, he asked the prosecution to call an expert on psychopaths.
Dr. Logan, good morning.
Forensic psychologist Matthew Logan.
Some of the traits are glib, superficial charm, pathological lying, lack of responsibility, inability to feel remorse.
While Logan never met Marsh, he did examine his records. I spoke to Dr. Logan via FaceTime.
Is Daniel Marsh a psychopath?
In my view, yes.
After his conviction, Marsh scored a whopping 35.8 out of 40 on the widely used psychopathy checklist, one of the highest scores Dr. Logan has ever seen.
It's generally accepted as the gold standard for diagnosing psychopathy.
Do you believe that Daniel Marsh could kill again and will kill again?
I would say it's more likely than not that he would kill again.
And Dr. Logan says Marsh's testimony did nothing to convince him otherwise.
I've interviewed hundreds of psychopaths, and they've all seen the light. And one of the things that is very typical of the psychopath is that ability to con and manipulate.
The 2-week hearing culminated on October 24, 2018, when a packed courtroom convened to hear the judge's decision on Daniel Marsh's fate.
Let's go on the record in the matter of Daniel William Marsh.
Judge McAdam first sent jitters throughout the courtroom.
Marsh is coping well with being incarcerated. He is not exhibiting the signs of a serious mental illness.
He said he found the testimony of Marsh to be credible, but in the end, concluded that Marsh's release just wasn't a chance worth taking. Marsh's original sentence would stand.
The defendant is remanded to state prison to serve the balance of an indeterminate life sentence with a minimum of 52 years.
You could kind of feel the relief in the courtroom when the judge read his final decision from the family members.
I went outside and was like, okay, I need to take a deep breath. And I could not catch my breath. And I still feel that way. I still feel that it's not over.
Because it's not. In September 2018, California Governor Jerry Brown signed a new law known as SB 1391, which makes it impossible to ever try a 15-year-old offender as an adult, even one like Daniel Marsh.
So what 1391 says is that the DAs can never, ever prosecute a juvenile that's 14 or 15 years old as an adult. No matter how heinous the crime, no matter what torture they inflicted.
Marsh's lawyers have vowed to do what they can to have Daniel retroactively included under that new law.
We're going to fight that every step of the way. We might lose. And if we do, Daniel Marsh will come back to our county and he will be sentenced as a juvenile where he would be eligible for release at 25.
If that happens, the state will have to argue every 2 years to keep Marsh behind bars. Which means a still grieving family may never fully heal.
We just went through this entire year having to rehash everything. It was literally like being in the trial all over again. It was. And even more so because I had to hear him.
It re-traumatizes me every time.
Special Agent Chris Campion is just as traumatized at the idea of Marsh ever being set free.
Daniel Marsh is in the top 3 of the people I'm most scared of.
What was your plan? Just gonna slit her throat.
Because he's got that combination of being a psychopath and this deep, dark desire for murder and gore and bloodshed.
It's the most exhilarating, enjoyable feeling I've ever felt.
And it doesn't go away. It just doesn't.
Court will come to order, all rise. The case starts on Monday, June 29th, 2015.
Hi, I'm Dr. Teresa Sievers.
Dr. Teresa Sievers was due at work, and she didn't arrive.
Teresa Sievers is found on her kitchen floor, dead. A pool of blood surrounds her head. She is cold to the touch.
This is Dr. Teresa Sievers. High-profile doctor, did a lot of holistic medicine, and people, said that she was just a little spitfire, just a short little thing, and always wearing, 4-inch heels, clacking around.
So let's get started. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Ladies, remember when walking into a room meant turning heads?
When I got into work that day, we were getting word that this 46-year-old doctor was dead. This beloved woman in our community had been brutally killed inside her own house. Mark and Teresa have been a couple since 2003 when they got married in a beachside ceremony in St. Petersburg. She was sort of the breadwinner, and he was the office manager at her practice, and he helped raise the kids. They had a trip planned to New York, and Teresa would fly home that Sunday night to be at work Monday morning. So on Sunday night, she comes back here to the Southwest Florida International Airport. She calls Mark, tells him she's safe, and then gets in her car and heads back to their house.
911, what is your emergency?
I'm at a friend's house.
Mark had a friend come and check up on her.
He's out of town, and she's dead on the floor. And there's a hammer at the side, and she's bashed in the back of the head.
It will later be determined that there are 17 impact wounds to her skull.
Who would possibly want this feisty Florida doctor dead? That question led investigators on a wild chase that ended more than 1,000 miles away with the shocking arrests of 3 people.
A break in the case came from all places from the state of Missouri. There were electronic footprints. When you step outside your home, folks, you're always being observed.
Once you started to unwrap it a little bit, it was nutty, it was weird, and it was hard to keep track of it all.
This is a case in which 21st century technology became vital.
I've been told we have a verdict.
I think anytime there is a beautiful, successful woman who is murdered, that's sort of what society pays attention to, for better or for worse.
The shocking murder of Dr. Teresa Sievers in Bonita Springs, Florida, was a huge story, especially for Jessica Lipscomb, who covered crime for the Naples Daily News.
To think of this mother of 2 who was killed brutally inside her home was horrifying to people.
The doctor had cut short a family vacation in upstate New York and had flown home alone on Sunday night, June 28, 2015, so she could see patients the next morning.
You kind of put yourself in her shoes, rolling your suitcase through the door, and then to be attacked by someone from behind it's hard to imagine.
Investigators believe that as soon as Dr. Sievers walked into her kitchen, she was killed, struck repeatedly with a hammer.
The next morning, her office staff got in.
It's now 9 o'clock. Now it's 9:05. Now it's 9:15. I said, where's Doctor?
Sandra Hoskins was Teresa Sievers' longtime medical assistant.
I was texting back and forth trying to see if, where you at, and no response. Called, no answer. Mark's out of town. He says, I can't get a hold of her either.
How unusual was it for Dr. Sievers not to show up?
Even if it was 9 o'clock and 3 seconds after, you would hear her heels coming in.
It was just so unbelievable.
When Connie Reese heard the tragic news, she contacted her stepbrother, Mark Sievers, the doctor's husband.
How did he react to the death of his wife?
He couldn't speak. He's not the kind of guy that's been overly emotional on the outside, but he couldn't speak.
Connie and Mark became family when her mother married his father.
I asked him what happened to Teresa.
And what did he say?
No idea.
Mark met his future wife in 2003 when he was visiting St. Petersburg, Florida.
Pretty much love at first sight?
Well, I think by the time that he introduced her to Mom, I think he was pretty much done. He was off the market officially. Yeah, really.
He was working as a nurse, while she was a recently divorced physician.
Teresa hung the moon she was a remarkable human being and very special, and that's the way Mark treated it from the beginning. You could hear it in his voice.
They were married on the beach, surrounded by friends and family, including stepmother Jenny Weckelman.
It was a sunset wedding, and she had a beautiful gown. It was very nice.
Was he happy on that day?
Oh my gosh. He was very happy.
6 months later, their first daughter was born. The Sievers built a large house in Bonita Springs, and in 2007, welcomed another daughter.
How did Mark feel about being a dad?
It was everything to him. They were his reason for being, but he was also all about Teresa and her mission.
We talk about our physical health, mental health.
That mission was to open a holistic practice where she could heal patients by blending traditional and alternative medicine. She also spread her message in speeches and videos.
There's our spiritual and energetic health.
We would have patients from all over the world. They would come to us after they failed everything else. She wouldn't take no for an answer.
Talking about the doctor still makes Sandra emotional.
And as a patient, she wouldn't allow you to say, I'm never gonna get better.
While patients loved the doctor, Sandra and her husband Frank Pays, who also worked at the practice, admit it wasn't always easy working for Sievers. She had a short fuse.
I would hear doctors screaming and yelling in the back office.
Dr. Sievers would yell at the patients?
She was there to help you get better. Didn't have what they call the bedside manner.
Would she yell at you?
Yes.
Yeah, a wrist is a problem. The bigger
She expected perfection. And if it wasn't perfect, she would get upset.
Because I need to maintain my mental sharpness.
She was a big presence, and sometimes that meant that she got really feisty with people. She was the biggest figure in the room.
While Teresa took care of her patients, Mark managed her office and took care of their daughters.
The girls were his pride and joy.
And according to her sister, Annie Lisa, Teresa was equally devoted to Mark.
Teresa always said, I'll never leave Mark. I won't ever do that to my girls.
Nevertheless, within weeks, Mark Sievers became a person of interest.
Did he cooperate initially?
Oh, yes.
I think he thought he was doing the right thing.
Mark spoke to investigators without a lawyer present and even handed over his cell phone and allowed them to download the contents.
Was he worried he might be arrested?
He thought, why would they? What kind of evidence could they possibly have? Because I didn't do anything.
In fact, Mark Sievers had an airtight alibi. At the time of Teresa's murder, he and their 2 girls were with Teresa's family, hundreds of miles away in New York. Eight days after Dr. Teresa Sievers was murdered, friends and family came together for her funeral, including Mark's stepmother, Jenny Weckelman.
There were a lot of people, yes. Yeah, and it was sad, of course.
Almost all her patients were there. I was numb.
Mark Sievers reportedly had a gun strapped to his waist at his wife's funeral. Strange? Well, perhaps. But her killer hadn't yet been arrested, and according to stepsister Connie Reese, Mark was on edge.
He was very much in protective mode.
When you say protective mode, what do you mean?
Well, I think, he always keeps an eye and an ear to the ground, so to speak, and is aware of his surroundings, and, he was concerned for their safety.
I think it was in the back of his mind that there might be some danger to his daughters because of what happened to their mother.
It just didn't make any sense. Who would want the vibrant and dedicated Dr. Teresa Sievers dead? And why kill her with such anger and force?
Could have been anybody. I really thought maybe it was just somebody that was in the area and broke in or something.
There were signs of a forced entry, pry marks on a side door, but Mark's extensive gun collection and $40,000 in cash discovered inside the Sievers home hadn't been touched.
So when this happened, everyone wanted to know what happened with the alarm, and as it turns out, it hadn't been activated.
While the family was on vacation, Mark had asked his mother, Bonnie Sievers, to feed the family pets. She had trouble setting the alarm that Sunday and told detectives her son Mark said not to worry about it. Monday morning, Dr. Sievers was discovered dead on her kitchen floor. This is Mark's mother speaking to investigators.
So I really feel that it's my fault. You cannot blame yourself.
Around the time of Dr. Sievers' murder, the internet was buzzing with reports about the suspicious deaths of other alternative doctors in the U.S.
Did Mark think that her death might be connected with that?
Yes, he did.
But with no real evidence to make that connection, investigators turned their attention to the people who might have had an axe to grind with the energetic, often abrasive, Dr. Sievers.
I think the theory that I heard was that maybe it was a patient. Obviously, they were interviewing all of her friends and family members, so it was pretty much like a wide open field of suspects at that point.
Then, a surprising name emerged. In her police interview, Dr. Sievers' sister, Annie Lisa, said she heard Sandra Hoskins was a disgruntled employee. That's the same Sandra who seemed so upset by Dr. Sievers' death.
You may not like your boss, but you don't badmouth them to patients that are coming in the doors, like Dr. Sievers. You know, she's a bitch.
Well, I'm like, oh my God, they think I did it.
Sandra, who claimed she had been treated harshly by Dr. Sievers in the past, had planned to hand in her resignation that very Monday the doctor was found dead. According to Sandra, the doctor told her she was bringing bad energy to the office.
Now I know why I was not received very well at her memorial.
Why would anyone think that you did this?
That is shocking to me. A lot of the patients did know the way she treated me.
And so people thought maybe you just had enough.
Yeah.
Sandra Hoskins was cleared when nearly 2 months after Dr. Sievers was murdered, there was a stunning break in the case. Police made arrests, and the suspects were not from Florida.
So we showed up to a press conference, I believe that August, and the sheriff gets up there and tells us simply the name of the first suspect, Jimmy Rogers, and he says he's from Missouri, and he's been booked for the murder of Teresa Sievers.
Never heard of him. So I thought, oh, well, who is he? And what's he got to do with this?
And then about an hour later, he calls us in again and says, we've now picked up a second suspect, Curtis Wayne Wright, also from Missouri. It was so shocking.
To solve this murder, investigators would travel more than 1,000 miles, and they were in for a wild ride. They would soon discover this case had as many twists and turns as the Missouri River.
Teresa Sievers was bludgeoned to death with a hammer.
Neighbors are still waiting for answers.
The 2 arrests for Teresa Sievers' murder, made 1,100 miles away in Missouri, seemed to come out of the blue. Mark's stepmother, Jenny Weckelman.
Why? You know, what's going on? Just seemed like such a disconnect.
No one had ever heard of the suspect, Jimmy Ray Rogers, but it was the mugshot of the other suspect, Wayne Wright, that struck everyone. He had an uncanny resemblance to the victim's husband, Mark Sievers.
They look alike, yeah.
At least in pictures, they look like twins.
And that's when I started to believe you know, that definitely there is not something right with Curtis Wainwright.
As it turns out, Curtis Wainwright, he goes by Wayne, was no stranger to Mark's family.
He was Mark's very good friends.
From ages and ages, so I didn't believe it. I didn't.
It just didn't make sense. Wayne and Mark had grown up together in Missouri. Wayne was at Teresa's funeral. He had celebrated Mark and Teresa's wedding with them. And just 2 months before the murder, Mark had been Wayne's best man at his wedding. Wayne was also a familiar face around the office. Did you two know Wayne Wright? How did you know him?
He was the computer guy that looked just like Mark.
Wayne would travel from Missouri to Florida to work on the computers in Dr. Sievers' office. How would you describe Wayne?
He was geeky. All he wanted to do was get the computers up and running, focused.
But to me, he just seemed like a very geeky creepster.
Did he make you nervous?
A little bit. I can't explain it. It's just a woman's intuition.
How would you describe Mark and Wayne's relationship? They appear to be close friends?
Yeah.
He always said he's my brother from another mother.
Yeah, that was his lingo.
Back in Hillsboro, Missouri, Greg Bolin knew both Mark and Wayne when they both had hair.
This here is Hillsboro Elementary School. This is where me and Wayne met for the very first time in 3rd grade.
Greg Bolin remembers his high school classmate Wayne as a tech whiz, the kid voted most dependable, and as a fun guy to hang around with.
He actually ran for and became our class president.
Smart?
Very smart. Quite honestly, he was one of the smartest people with computers that I ever met.
But it wasn't long before Greg suspected Wainwright had a dark side. In 1996, Greg's brother Ronnie Bolin, a preacher, mysteriously disappeared. His body has never been found, and according to police, Ronnie was last seen with Wayne. Do you believe Wainwright killed your brother?
Yes, I do.
You have no question about that?
I have no doubt in my mind.
Greg believes the motive was money that Wayne owed Ronnie. Reporter Jessica Lipscomb.
They found his car with the car keys still in the ignition in a car wash in St. Louis.
Wayne has never been charged in Ronnie's disappearance, but he is listed in a police report as a person of interest. And Wayne's no stranger to the criminal justice system. In 2011, he was serving time for drug possession when he befriended the other suspect in Dr. Sievers' murder, a young inmate named Jimmy Ray Rogers, who was doing time on a weapons charge.
You could just tell he needed a job. He wanted a job, you know.
Jimmy was released from jail.
I'll show you.
Tyler Juliet and Jeff Conway hired him to work at a contracting company.
He liked to tell a lot of stories. A lot of things he told at the time, nobody really believed Jimmy. He liked to brag a little bit about the things he had done in the past.
A colorful criminal past. He says Jimmy would brag about con jobs ranging from stolen merchandise to counterfeit money.
I never felt that Jimmy was a dangerous guy. I just felt like he was a blowhard, honestly, you know. I really felt like he was just a talker.
Conway recalls that he had asked Jimmy to work on Monday, June 29th. But Jimmy texted him back and said he wasn't available.
All it said was, I can't do that, I'm still in Florida.
It was on June 29th that Dr. Teresa Sievers was discovered bludgeoned to death with a hammer inside her Florida home. And it didn't go unnoticed to investigators that Jimmy Ray Rogers had a unique nickname.
Supposedly, Jimmy Rogers' nickname was the Hammer, but I think that was more of like a self-given nickname. If you talk to some of his friends from high school, they say nobody really called him that. But I think maybe going to jail for the first time, you know, trying to make a name for himself, maybe that's something he sort of assigned himself to fit in.
Why was Jimmy the Hammer Rogers in Florida that fateful weekend? Was Wainwright with him? And what led authorities to believe they were involved in a doctor's murder?
Why would Wayne try to look like Mark? See more evidence from the case on Facebook at 48 Hours.
Back in June 2015, practically everyone in Hillsborough, Missouri knew that Wainwright was planning a weekend trip out of town.
He let it slip to lots of people that he was going down to Florida, told some people he was even going to visit the Sievers.
And it wasn't long before police got a tip that Wayne had been in Florida at the time of Dr. Sievers' murder. And he hadn't gone there alone. He went with his jailhouse pal, Jimmy the Hammer Rogers. Jimmy's boss, Jeff Conway.
He told me a story that his brother had graduated from law school and that he had invited Jimmy down to Florida for the weekend, all expenses paid.
But he told his pregnant girlfriend, Taylor Showmaker, another story. He was going out of town for a few days to work with Wayne.
He had told her that he was going down to Florida to make some money.
Weeks after Jimmy and Wayne returned, detectives from Florida showed up in Hillsborough, Missouri. They confronted Wayne about that tip placing him in Florida, but he refused to talk. He didn't need to. A rental car GPS gave the cops what they needed to know. On the morning of June 27, 2015, Wainwright got into a rental car here in Hillsborough, Missouri, and then went to pick up Jimmy Ray Rogers. At some point, this address was put into the GPS, and then the two men took off for the 1,100-mile ride to Bonita Springs, Florida. After driving all day and all night on Sunday, June 28th, Wayne and Jimmy arrived at the Sievers home, the Bonita Springs address. It's all right there in the GPS, a digital footprint for investigators. When Jimmy and Wayne arrived around 6 a.m., authorities believe they turned off the house alarm. That may explain why Mark's mother, Bonnie, was so confused about the alarm system.
I was not there at 6:09 in the morning.
He was turned off at 6:09.
Someone was in there?
That's what we're trying to work out.
Oh, my God.
Then, according to the GPS, Jimmy and Wayne left the Sievers home and typed in another address for a Walmart to do some shopping.
Obviously, looking at that security footage from the Walmart, they're able to pretty quickly determine that that's who was with Wayne.
They made no effort to cover their faces, disguise themselves.
They just waltzed through like they were anyone else.
They bought, among other things, trash bags, flushable wet wipes, black towels, black shoes, and a lock-picking kit. They paid cash for their purchase with a $100 bill. After shopping at Walmart, Jimmy and Wayne continued using the navigation system, even to find the beach and soak up some sun. Does it make any sense that this guy who was so good with computers would have left such a trail?
It does, but it doesn't. To a lot of people looking at it, it kind of makes it look like, you know, these guys were just dumb and dumber, but that's a lot of how he operated.
After their beach trip, according to police affidavits, Wayne and Jimmy returned to the Sievers home, where they hung out for hours in the garage, waiting for an unsuspecting Dr. Sievers to arrive. In the early morning hours of Monday, June 29th, the GPS again shows Jimmy and Wayne on the highway, headed northbound for the 17-hour drive back to Missouri. The electronic trail would eventually lead detectives to Jimmy Ray Rogers' door. But like Wayne, he denied he had anything to do with the murder. But when police brought in Jimmy's girlfriend, Taylor Showmaker...
Which means you're going to swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, correct?
Yes.
What a story she had to tell. Jimmy Ray Rogers took his girlfriend Taylor for a ride right along here, Route 47 in rural Missouri. And along this road, he asked her to throw out parts of his cell phone, which he had smashed earlier, some gloves, and a jumpsuit.
He said throw this in the river, and it took me a minute to click in. And then I threw the gloves out, and I waited a minute, and then I threw out the jumpsuit.
Did you ask why, or you just did it?
No, I just did it. I was scared.
Okay.
Taylor told police that's when she pushed Jimmy to tell her exactly what happened in Florida.
And he told me about using a hammer on her.
Okay, and he said that he killed Teresa Sievers, Mark's wife,
Yes.
with a hammer.
Yes.
Florida detectives now thought they knew who killed Teresa Sievers, but they still didn't know the why. Why would Wayne Wright want to kill his best friend's wife? Did everyone then say, oh my gosh, Mark had to be involved?
Definitely. I mean, there was really no putting Wayne in Florida in Bonita Springs inside their house without Mark knowing about it.
Did it occur to either one of you that Mark might be involved?
No.
Not even a thought in the back of your mind?
No, absolutely not.
But when investigators downloaded Mark's cell phone, they discovered the Sievers marriage was more troubled than anyone guessed. Despite having $40,000 in cash around the house, they had serious financial problems. And when investigators discovered 5 insurance policies on Teresa, totaling more than $4 million, it was a big red flag. Jimmy's girlfriend had told police that Teresa's death was a murder for hire and that Jimmy was supposed to be paid $10,000.
And then asked him how he was gonna make money, and it was murdering Mark's wife.
He said that Mark hired Wayne.
Yes, and Wayne hired him. Mark didn't know anything about Jimmy being hired.
Where's the money supposed to come from?
Insurance from her death.
Okay, and did he ever get paid?
No.
Then, almost 8 months after Teresa Sievers' murder, Wayne Wright, Mark's look-alike best friend, suddenly turned on him and took a deal.
Mr. Wright, why are you pleading guilty today to second-degree murder?
Wayne Wright admitted killing Teresa.
I'm pleading guilty because of my role in the planning and participating of the murders of Teresa Sievers.
He said the murder was all Mark's idea, and that's what police needed.
Mark, did you hire Wayne Wright to kill your wife?
Mark Sievers was charged with the murder of his wife.
Did you hire anyone to kill your wife?
But Sievers' stepsister says he would never risk losing his children. She believes Wayne Wright had long envied his best friend's life, and he's the one who killed Teresa on his own.
Why would Wayne kill Teresa?
Because he's a sick man.
Do you think Wayne was jealous of Mark?
I think it's possible. Whether he's jealous of Mark or wanted to be Mark, I don't have any clue.
Family and friends point to how Wayne Wright began to model himself after Sievers, even shaving his own head when Sievers started to go bald.
I can't
Greg
explain
Boland.
why. They didn't look alike when we were younger. How much they morphed into each other over the years. If it was by chance or by their plan, I don't know.
More than 4 years after Curtis Wayne Wright cut that deal to testify against Mark Sievers and ex-con Jimmy Rogers, the two men go on trial, but separately. Rogers' case went first, October 2019. Teresa Sievers' mother and siblings were in the courtroom.
This case was about the perfect marriage, the perfect friendship, the perfect alibi, the perfect murder.
Assistant State Attorney Hamid Hunter told the jury that Teresa Sievers' death was a classic case of murder for hire. Mark Sievers was miles away, while Curtis Wayne Wright and Jimmy Ray Rogers killed his wife.
And Mr. Wright hit her with the hammer. He hit her again. Mr. Rogers came out of nowhere. Mr. Rogers engages with his hammer, and he starts hitting her.
Rogers' defense attorney, Kathleen Fitzgeorge.
What you heard from the state attorney is what they believe or expect or hope the evidence will show. But it's a bumpy road because they haven't told you everything.
The state actually believes Teresa Sievers was killed with 2 hammers, but only one was discovered on the Sievers kitchen floor. They showed the jury that weapon and the damaging video evidence of the 2 men near the crime scene.
Is this how you found this jumpsuit when you took it into your custody on the side of the road in Cadet, Missouri?
Yes.
A fiber from the jumpsuit worn by Rogers was found on Teresa's body.
This time the state calls Taylor Showmaker.
Rogers' former girlfriend, Taylor Showmaker, appeared shaken when she entered the courtroom. She identified that blue jumpsuit.
It's his jumpsuit.
And told the jury Rogers confessed to her.
And then asked him how, and he said with a hammer.
Then the state called their star witness.
Next witness.
State calls Curtis Wright.
In exchange for his testimony at both trials, Wright was allowed to plead guilty to second-degree murder and will spend 25 years in prison.
Mr. Wright, who killed Dr. Teresa Sievers?
I did, and Jimmy Rogers.
How many times did you hit Dr. Sievers with that hammer?
3.
Mr. Rogers came from somewhere and he started hitting her. What did he do?
Just started hitting her over and over.
How would you describe how he was hitting her?
In a frenzy.
Rogers did not testify, and his attorney, Donald McFarland, called no witnesses, but told jurors they should not believe Curtis Wayne Wright.
Curtis Wright's the only one who ever hit that woman. And he's lying to you to save his own worthless skin. Jimmy didn't have a hammer.
The jury was out nearly 2 days, and then...
I've been told we have a verdict. Is the state ready?
Yes, Your Honor. The defendant is guilty of second-degree murder.
Rogers showed no emotion. He was sentenced to life in prison. And then, in November 2019, Mark Sievers went on trial for the murder of his wife. He spent much of the prior 3 years in jail, still denying he had any involvement, and his family was still behind him.
Just haven't seen any evidence that makes any sense as far as Mark being involved.
Both his stepmother Jenny and stepsister Connie vowed to support him through the trial.
I will do everything that I can to be there.
Are you nervous about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Please be seated.
Mark Sievers, charged with first-degree murder of his wife, appeared unfazed, even though he faced the death penalty. The same prosecutors who tried Jimmy Rogers will use much of the same evidence in front of a different jury.
This is a case in which 21st century technology became vital. Cell towers, cell tower dumps, call detail records that allowed massive amounts of data to be sorted, organized, and searched.
But Sievers' defense attorney, Michael Mummert, says all that evidence only points to Curtis Wright and Jimmy Rogers as the killers.
Curtis swings that hammer. Bang! Right in the side of the head. Followed by another one across the bridge of the nose. Curtis says, I struck Teresa 3 times in the head with a hammer. But Jimmy did the rest.
Testifying again is Jimmy Rogers' former girlfriend, Taylor Showmaker, now with a new look. She says her ex was promised a payday, but she can't connect Sievers to it.
And did he tell you how much money he expected to be making from this?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
I think it was 10,000.
The case again comes down to that star witness, Curtis Wayne Wright, who will now come face to face with his mirror image and once closest friend.
Mr. Wright, who killed Dr. Teresa Sievers?
Jimmy Rogers and I physically did it, but Mark Sievers was also involved in the planning.
For several hours, Wright testified against Sievers, the man he affectionately called his brother from another mother.
Why did you do it?
I was asked to do it.
By whom?
Mr. Sievers.
Wright told the jury that Sievers and his wife were having marital and money problems, and that Sievers believed Teresa was planning to leave him and take the kids.
The only option that he had was for her to die. And he said that he needed to have her killed.
When the judge asked Mark Sievers if he wanted to testify,
I'm not going to testify.
Okay.
But I'd like to go home.
this time the jury was out just 4 hours. The families gathered in the court for the verdict.
The jury find as follows as to the defendant in this case. Count 1, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder.
Sievers, stoic at first, began to cry. In addition to the guilty verdict, the jury asked the judge to sentence Sievers to death. This is how former employee Frank Pays felt before the trial.
What should happen to Mark Sievers? He's facing the death penalty.
I think the death penalty is the easy way out. I think the pain and torture that he deserves is to sit in jail to the rest of his life, thinking about his 2 pride and joy daughters. That should be his punishment.
On January 3rd, 2020, Mark Sievers, now a convicted killer, returned to court to find out if he will get life in prison or be sentenced to death.
Is it okay if I refer to my notes?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
This time, he agreed to speak, to plead for his life.
Although a jury found me guilty, I am innocent of all charges, as I have maintained since this heinous crime took place. Our girls have tragically lost their mommy, and now they're about to lose their daddy as well.
It didn't take long for the judge to rule.
I judge people's actions. I don't judge people's souls. That's for somebody else to do. Sir, I'm going to go ahead and adjudicate you guilty on each count. On the first count, first-degree murder, it's the order of the court that you be sentenced to death, sir.
For Teresa's family, it's the end of an agonizing nearly 5-year wait for justice.
This has been an incredible nightmare from the beginning. Teresa took down 3 guys that took her from us.
She was my modern-day Mother Teresa. I always called her that because she always was trying to help people.
Our focus now
is to go on to take care of the girls and give them the love and support that they need.
And we're glad that it's over. Justice has been served.
CBS next Saturday. 48 Hours brings you back-to-back episodes all summer long. Next week, Unsolved.
I want to find out who murdered my sister.
This is a woman that has fought this battle alone since 2015.
48 Hours Crime Time double feature. Next Saturday, 9/8 Central on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
My name's Adam Duxter. I am a local news reporter, and in the summer of 2021, I was working as a multimedia journalist for WISC News 3. News 3 Now in Madison, Wisconsin. Madison is not New York City, it's not LA where there's news happening all the time. A missing person, especially a husband and wife, that would be news.
The Dane County Sheriff's Office shared this photo of Bart and Krista Helderson. Instead, spending today interviewing neighbors. There are too many unanswered questions.
You know, cars go off the road. Things happen. You know, there's a storm or there's a crash or XYZ, you just don't know.
My boss was calling her or emailing her or texting her. I was doing the same. I was texting Bart, and there was just never any response. I met Krista through work at Zimbrick Body Shop, and then I met her husband through her, obviously, and then, you know, they just did anything for anybody, like even people they didn't know.
So I'm on the Krista side. We were related through my dad's side of the family, and we mostly saw each other in Wisconsin at our family cottage cabin during summers and family reunions. They both gave 100% to raising their boys. Mitchell was a little more outgoing, very easygoing. Chandler was a little more sensitive, a little quieter. Her whole goal for her being a mom was, and I'm quoting her, she said, "I want my children to be the best men they can be."
The biggest concern for me is just figuring out where they are.
Police say the couple had planned to go to their cabin in Langlade County.
Our investigation began on July 7th when Chandler reported his parents missing.
We knew exactly what Chandler had told us. We knew that his two parents were gone. They had left for the 4th of July weekend, supposedly to go to their cabin in northern Wisconsin. I've never been assigned to a case where a couple is gone.
We ask even more questions to try to get a story and get a timeline of when did the Heldersons go missing? And everything was just happening so fast in those first couple of days.
When we first got the email saying that Bart and Krista were missing, it didn't compute. Like, what do you mean they're missing? Like, they went up to the cabin and they didn't come back. And I went, huh?
Did you think possibly they'd been in a car accident and just hadn't been found?
I thought about that, or I did think about the boat. Did something happen out on the lake?
And all these stories are swirling around and not making any sense. And it's, you know, taking weirder and weirder turns.
And we needed to search this area because of how remote it is and wooded it is and the access to water to see if we could find any evidence.
No way I would have ever guessed what was about to be revealed. Never. Nobody saw this coming.
Bart and Krista Helderson had everything a couple could want: a beautiful home in Windsor, Wisconsin, and two sons they adored, 24-year-old Mitchell, who worked in tech, and 23-year-old Chandler, a college student living at home. Chandler had big ambitions. He talked of getting his IT degree, of his promising internship at an insurance company, and was especially excited about a new job he landed at SpaceX, founded by one of the richest people in the world, Elon Musk. Everything seemed to be going well for the Heldersons, so on Friday morning, July 2nd, when Krista just didn't show up at the office, Dan Croninger remembers becoming concerned.
How unusual was it for, number one, for Krista not to show up for work, not to call, and just not show up? How unusual?
Extremely unusual.
Dan and Krista not only worked together, they were close friends.
So when she hadn't said anything to me, I was like, well, that's kind of weird. It wasn't something that she would ever do.
Dan says he texted and called her several times, but got no response. Later that afternoon, he and his girlfriend drove over to the Halderson home. A neighbor's security camera shows them arriving.
You know, knocked on the door, didn't hear anything, peered through the window. The only thing that seemed weird was there was a coffee table on its side. You looked through the door, it was kind of off to the right, over by, they had a fireplace over there.
Then Dan says he walked over to the garage window.
I looked in, both cars were there. I was like, why are both cars here? And I was starting to go around the back of the house, and then Chandler came out the side door, and he came out in a towel saying, oh, I just got out of the shower. You know, hey, what's going on? I was like, oh, we're just looking for Bart and Krista. And he said, oh yeah, they had to go up north this morning for an emergency up at the cabin.
Dan says he was relieved to know that Bart and Krista were at the family cabin. Over the holiday weekend, he kept in touch with Chandler to see if he had heard from his mom and dad.
But he said, yeah, they don't have very good service up there, so you kind of have to wait till the clouds clear before they get a message.
On Sunday, July 4th, Dan says Chandler called him and said he was bored and needed something to do. So Dan invited him over to watch the fireworks and asked Chandler about his parents.
He mentioned that he talked to them and they're going to be back Monday.
All right, when he said that he had talked to them, did he say he talked to both his parents or just his mom? What did he say? Do you remember?
I don't think he was specific. I mean, I was asking about his mom because I knew she had a doctor's appointment coming up that she was really wanted to be at. I think it had been rescheduled before.
But Krista didn't show up for work on Monday and again on Tuesday. By Wednesday, July 7th, when there was still no word, Dan knew something was wrong.
And now she's missed her appointment.
So now it's all out concern.
Right.
You know something's happened to her now.
Right.
Dan pushed Chandler to file a missing persons report that morning.
Chandler Halderson walked into one of our precincts to report his parents missing.
Detectives Sabrina Sims and Brian Shunk with the Dane County Sheriff's Office would lead the team to track down the missing couple.
We had a lot of detectives assisting us with the caseload.
Their first stop, the Halderson home on Oak Springs Circle Drive.
So when you first got there, who was home?
It was just Chandler.
We're inside the house with him, and detectives are getting information outside, and so we're either getting, phone calls or text messages of, hey, maybe ask about this. We're walking around the house with him. He's pointing out things at the house, things that were missing that his parents took when they traveled to the cabin.
While deputies began interviewing neighbors and friends, Barbie Townsend, Krista's first cousin who lives in Southern California, knew only what she had seen on the news, that the Haldersons' 23-year-old son Chandler had gone to the police telling them his parents were missing.
What does that mean? What does missing mean? And that they had gone up to our cabin, family cottage, and didn't return.
Bart and Krista had not mentioned to coworkers or their older son Mitchell that they had been planning to go to the cabin that weekend. But according to Chandler, another couple who he didn't know picked up his parents and drove them there. The cabin was a remote, rustic lakeside retreat and a treasured family heirloom. Barbie and Krista's grandparents built it in the 1940s.
You start to think of crazy things because our cabin's up in the woods. And so we were worried that, are they being held hostage somewhere? Are they tied up somewhere?
The day after Chandler reported them missing, his brother Mitchell and his fiancée drove 3 hours up north to see if he could find any sign of his parents.
Why would they not call? Why wouldn't there be a text or something? Your mind just starts to go down really murky trails because you're trying to figure out what's going on.
Hi there.
Hi there.
Are you guys,
The Halderson?
You are affiliated with them?
Yes.
The police met Mitchell and his fiancée at the cabin.
But, maybe we could just take a walk around and see. You would know the property probably better than we would.
Prepared for the worst.
Sheriff's Office, anybody inside? Announce your presence, make yourselves known.
When the Haldersons disappeared, it stunned everyone who knew them. Barbie Townsend said neither her cousin Krista nor her husband Bart would just leave on a whim.
He was more structured. She was the more nurturing, indulging mom. It was a wonderful combination.
She worked as a customer service representative for an auto body shop and loved art projects. He was a managing director for an international accounting firm and enjoyed woodworking.
They were 100% about the family. He was very involved in the scouting and all the things they did.
The Haldersons were together on Father's Day in June 2021, less than a month before Bart disappeared. Mitchell is smiling, and Chandler, who had a mild concussion from a fall, is wearing a neck brace. Investigators, anxious to find out what had happened to Bart and Krista Halderson, asked deputies from the Langley County Sheriff's Office to help Mitchell, who brought along his fiancée, search the family's cabin, a 3-hour drive north of the family home. When they got inside, it was dark. There were no signs of Krista and Bart. They also checked a shed. The canoe was there. It was obvious no one had been to the cabin in a very long time.
They're believed to be with another couple?
Someone else, at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
When Mitchell was with the police searching the family's cabin, Chandler was on his own hunt throughout the neighborhood. Here he is, seen on video doorbell cameras, going door to door, asking homeowners if they had seen or heard from his parents.
It's kind of difficult to track him down.
Adam Duxter, now with the CBS station WCCO in Minneapolis, worked in Madison, Wisconsin at the time. He immediately started calling his sources.
So we're waiting to hear back from the sheriff's office, and my boss at the time, he was like, well, you can't just sit around. You gotta go start shooting something. And so packed my gear in my car and drove out there to their street in Windsor.
He knocked on the Haldersons' front door. The missing couple's son, Chandler, answered.
And so I'm like, if you'd be willing, I'd love to do a quick interview. And he was like, yeah, I'll do that. But I don't want you to film me. I don't want to be shown, but you can record my voice.
So my last message I got from them, they were going to White Lake for the 4th of July. Other than that, their plan, or to my knowledge, they were going to Langley County to a cabin, their cabin.
At the time, I got this sense like he was in shock. This is someone who's roughly my age. And so I'm thinking like, yeah, if my parents just went missing, he probably hasn't slept. He's probably really nervous.
Alex Gravatt knew Chandler well.
I was roommates with Chandler for a little while. I called him Chaz.
The two friends shared an apartment from 2019 to 2020.
We grew up together and we played soccer together, did Cub Scouts together, and just hung out together. He was a great swimmer, so I know that the swim team really got along with him.
Alex says his friend Chandler, who went by the name Chaz, could be a playful guy.
He was a goon, a hooligan in a lot of senses.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, he would play pranks and he would make lots of jokes or poke fun at people.
Alex described Chaz as popular with women. College student Catherine Mallender, known as Kat, was his longtime girlfriend.
He was a relatively attractive guy. I mean, he looked good, he had great hair, he kept up on appearances.
According to Alex, when they were roommates, Chaz often bragged to friends about hooking up with different women behind Kat's back. When she found out about it,
she grilled him. She was like, "Are you seeing other people?" And he just kept denying it.
But Kat remained suspicious and began tracking her boyfriend on social media. Alex says Chaz became more secretive and moved back home with his parents. And now those parents were missing. Detectives Shunk and Sims began follow-up interviews.
At that point, what do we really have? We don't know what we have.
Then they got a tip they desperately needed. From the owner of a farm outside town,
We received information from someone that, yes, Chandler had been out to my property over 4th of July weekend.
The owner was a friend of Chandler's girlfriend, Kat. The owner said she was with the couple at her farm on July 4th. She told deputies she was surprised to see Chandler again the very next day, and this time he was alone.
And I saw him coming from the wood line. His car was parked, backed up to the field. So of course, right from that interview, we want to go search that property.
As deputies began searching, detectives wanted to know why Chandler had never mentioned he had gone back to the farm by himself. Police picked up Chandler and took him to the station.
What's going on?
Detective Brian Shunk asked him to once again describe the last time he had seen his parents.
It's Thursday morning. I wake up. What time is it? 6.
Chandler said his dad Bart was at home working and that later he had dinner with both parents.
That's where they told me while we were eating it, they were going to go with their friends, and I was like, oh, cool.
And they said they were going cabin.
Yeah.
We're
going up north.
While detectives questioned Chandler, deputies were out searching the farm and made a discovery that quickly changed the tone of the interview.
Listen to me. This is the only chance you're gonna have to tell us the truth. Okay? Listen. I can't tell you what we know, but we know you're not telling us the truth. You need to tell the truth. Listen. You need to tell the truth about what happened and just tell us why it happened. I'm not BSing you, okay? So can we do that? Okay, they're okay. Lawyer.
Chandler's request for a lawyer ended that interview. Detective Sims remembers the moment she learned what deputies told her they had found near that field.
You know, Brian and I were in the command post together, and I said, what did you say? You know, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing.
They had discovered human remains. On Thursday, July 8, 2021, in the village of Windsor, Wisconsin, the community struggled to make sense of the disturbing news. The remains of an adult male had been found on a farm 20 miles from Bart and Krista Halderson's home.
At this point, it's very early in our investigation.
Dane County Sheriff Calvin Barrett warned residents not to jump to conclusions.
I don't want to make any uncorroborated speculations at this time.
The gruesome discovery was made the day after Bart and Krista had been reported missing by their son, and it was something detectives Brian Shunk and Sabrina Sims had never encountered.
The grass had been matted down, and they followed it to a trail which led to the discovery of a male torso that was concealed with sticks and twigs.
That was really the moment, right?
It was huge.
I think of other death investigations or homicide cases we've worked, and I don't remember a time that I've worked a dismemberment case.
And what other evidence was found out there?
We found some cutting instruments, some that were hidden in an old oil drum, some scissors, pruning shears, a broken bow saw.
And it was all in the same wooded area where the Halderson's son Chandler had been seen earlier in the week. Detective Sims had a pretty good idea who the victim was.
Knowing in my gut that was most likely Bart Halderson, and his son was seen in that area.
Police turned their full attention to Chandler Halderson. He was now a person of interest and the prime suspect. While tests were being done to confirm the victim's identity, detectives arrested Chandler and charged him with lying to them.
The arrest was based on him providing false information in regards to a missing person.
Krista Halderson's cousin, Barbie Townsend.
What did you think? They arrested him for giving false information about a missing person.
That was the first day that I started to suspect foul play from their own son.
I checked my phone and I saw that, and it was that he had been arrested. And it was pretty wild.
Alex Cravat, his childhood friend, learned about it on social media.
My eyes got wide. I kind of just sat there for a second reading it. My first thought was, if he's being arrested for giving misinformation to the police, I didn't think that there was really much of a chance that he wasn't involved somehow.
But there's someone who had a hard time imagining Chandler was involved. His girlfriend, Kat. She spoke to police just before his arrest.
You don't think he had anything to do with his mom and dad being unheard from?
No. No. That'd be crazy. But I just don't see him killing Mr. and Mrs. Halderson. Like, he had SpaceX. Like, why would he jeopardize something he, like, would dream of, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're his parents. For Christmas, they got him and his brother matching tool sets. Like, come on.
Okay.
He cooks dinner for them. They have root beer floats together. They play Mario Kart whenever his parents want to.
But on Saturday, July 10th, 2021, the victim found in the woods was identified as Bart Halderson.
It just changed everything. Like, that moment changed everything.
Preliminary autopsy results would reveal Bart had been shot at least 2 times in the back. And there was still the troubling question: where was Krista?
Krista Halderson remains a missing person, and we continue to ask for citizen involvement.
Krista's coworker, Dan Cronier, ran through all the different possibilities.
Did you, at that moment, wonder, like, maybe Krista was involved in this too?
It had definitely crossed my mind. Start to wonder, well, why is Chandler lying? Is he covering for himself, or is he covering for perhaps his mother? Is she involved?
But the more investigators looked, it seemed the only person Chandler Halderson was covering for was himself.
You know, he just lied to everybody.
And in his lies, police started to believe they found a motive for murder. For months, he had been telling everyone, including his childhood friend, Alex Cravat, that he was enrolled at Madison College during the 2021 spring semester.
Did you have any idea he had flunked out? He didn't tell you?
No. It was surprising.
Detectives believe his parents had no idea he wasn't in school. They say when his parents questioned him about his transcripts, the computer-savvy Chandler Halderson crafted a chain of emails that seemed to come from the college.
Chandler creates people that work for Madison College and communicates via email with them. You know, Bart's on some of those as well, talking to who he believes is employees of the school.
And do any of those people actually exist?
No.
In June 2021, Bart Halderson called Madison College pretending to be Chandler and got an answer he wasn't expecting.
Said, I don't see that you were admitted in any program.
You said they were, it's the IT degrees in there, right?
No, those are just classes. You might have just took the classes but not be in the program.
Bart learned that not only had his son been lying about that IT degree, but there was no internship with an insurance company either. And remember that big job with SpaceX? Turns out that was just another elaborate lie.
The delusional reality that he concocted, that is shocking to me.
According to detectives, Bart was planning to meet at the college with his son on Thursday, July 1st. Around 2 p.m., Bart, who was working from home, sent his son this text: "I'm ready whenever you are." That text is believed to be the last message Bart sent. 7 days later, Bart's remains were found. Investigators got a search warrant for the Halderson home. No weapon was found there, but a shell casing was discovered in the basement. And several areas inside the house tested positive for blood.
Chandler, middle initial M, last name Halderson, age 23 of Windsor, is now being charged with first-degree homicide, hiding a corpse, and mutilating a corpse.
On July 15, 2021, Chandler Halderson was formally charged with his father's murder.
Chandler is currently being held in the Dane County Jail.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like, how could you do that to your father?
But where was his mother, Krista? Chandler Halderson had lawyered up and wasn't talking, but someone very close to him was.
She had communicated with him that whole weekend.
That loyal girlfriend, Catherine Mallender, had a potentially damning piece of evidence about her boyfriend on the social media app Snapchat.
She actually consented to a download of her phone.
So that was a breakthrough.
How do you feel about allowing people to track you on social media apps? Join the conversation now on social media.
Chandler Halderson was charged with his father's murder, but his mother's whereabouts were still unknown. Lead detectives Sabrina Sims and Brian Shunk knew if Krista was alive, they needed to find her fast.
At that point, we were hoping for the best. It was one of those things where we just needed to push on.
Detectives turned to Halderson's girlfriend for help. She had given them permission to download information from her phone.
Chandler had lied to her before and had cheated on her before. And so she, would track his location.
Kat had convinced Halderson to let her track his movements using Snapchat, the popular social media app, which allows users to send messages and share their location in real time.
And that was an agreement that, yes, you will have your locations on so I can see where you're going.
Detectives were most intrigued by messages posted early on the morning of July 1st, the day Chandler Halderson and his father were supposed to meet with Madison College officials. Halderson, whose online name was Chazzle Dazzle, messaged Kat at 7:30 a.m. I hardly slept. I'm sorry, B. Why? I don't know. Stuff hasn't really been going well for me lately, so I'm trying to plan for the next thing to expletive me over. B, it's gonna be okay. Yeah, I just had a great future planned, and it's falling apart. According to detectives, the tone of those messages worried Kat. So 2 days later, when Kat checked Snapchat and noticed her boyfriend's avatar, that's hubby on her screen, indicated that he was nearly 25 miles from home, Kat saved the image to her phone.
It was a Snapchat screenshot of Chandler, almost 9 in the morning, out by the Wisconsin River.
Detectives Sims and Shunk took us to that location on the river where they had hoped to find Krista.
So where are we exactly? What would you call this area?
It's the Wisconsin State Lower Riverway.
And it's a familiar place to the former high school swimmer Chandler Halderson, close to his favorite swimming hole. This is him at the same place in a photo taken a year earlier, holding a large knife. Law enforcement throughout Dane County searched the wooded area.
And how long was he here?
45 minutes, I believe. Yeah. Just keep in mind in July, but it's definitely far thicker than what you're seeing here now.
Still no sign of Krista Halderson, but search teams refused to give up.
Let's go hit one more area, and that was where they ended up discovering the remains.
And what exactly did they find there?
They ended up finding 2 legs cut into different sections.
DNA tests confirmed it was Krista Halderson, the concerned son who had reported his mom and dad missing, was now charged with both of their murders. Krista's cousins were horrified.
You couldn't write this. It just wasn't anything that you could possibly come up with in your head.
How do you make sense of it?
We don't. And that's the hard part. We don't have a why.
In January of 2022, at the Dane County Courthouse, Chandler Halderson went on trial for the murder of his parents.
All right, for the jury.
He was also facing charges for lying to the police and for mutilating and hiding their bodies.
Our job is to, over the course of the next couple of weeks, present evidence to show you the path of what we believed happened.
Assistant District Attorney William Brown.
That Chandler Halderson killed his parents, dismembered their bodies, and hid them around southern Wisconsin.
Prosecutors laid out a motive. They say Chandler murdered his parents when his lies were about to be exposed, and that for months he had been trying to hide the truth from them. Among the evidence, those fake email accounts he created.
No one uses a Gmail account as their official Madison College email. No.
And his fictitious internship with an insurance company.
I found no record of that person working for American Family.
Investigators believe the murder weapon was a semi-automatic rifle that had been hidden in a barn at that farm where Bart's remains were discovered.
Good afternoon, sir. Could you please state your name and then spell it out?
Andrew Smith.
And how do you spell it?
Alpha, November, Delta, Romeo, Echo, Whiskey.
The rifle came from this man, Andrew Smith, who testified that he was in the military when he met Halderson online.
How did you meet Chandler Halderson?
Playing video games while I was stationed in Germany, sir.
Halderson had wanted a gun. Smith testified he had no idea what Halderson wanted to do with the weapon. And in June 2021, he gave him that semi-automatic rifle as a gift.
I'm going to give it to someone who might actually appreciate this weapon and take care of it.
And nearly 480 rounds of ammunition.
How did Chandler react when you gave him the gun?
Oh, he was happy.
What do you mean? But how do you know he was happy? Or how do you know that?
Because he had a big smile on his face when I had given it to him as a gift.
But the most anticipated witness in this trial.
Good morning.
Would be Halderson's girlfriend.
Did you verbally answer yes to the oath?
Yes.
Who gave police that Snapchat screenshot.
What is that?
Screenshot of Chandler by the Wisconsin River.
What do you make of the prosecution's case against Chandler Halderson? See more evidence at 48hours.com.
Could you please state and spell your name for us?
Catherine Melander.
For 3 hours, Kat Melander sat on the stand, telling the jury about the young man she thought she knew, Chandler Halderson.
Did you go on a lot of dates together?
Yeah, we would grab dinners, have movie dates, just sit at home and watch movies, go on walks quite often.
Kat told the jury that she was working on July 1st when authorities believed the murders happened and didn't see her boyfriend in person that day.
But you weren't with him?
I was not with him.
Did you know that Bart and Krista Halderson had died?
No.
According to investigators, Halderson asked Kat to bring a few cleaning supplies to his home the following day. He told her he had stepped on some broken glass from the fireplace. She brought him a Swiffer mop and a bottle of hydrogen peroxide.
Kat, did you have absolutely anything to do with cleaning anything up or their disappearance?
No.
Investigators say there's no evidence that Kat had any involvement in the murders. They believe Chandler Halderson acted alone. Prosecutors showed the jury police video from inside the Halderson home.
These walkthrough videos will document the home as is.
At first glance, it seemed neat and clean, but test results revealed what appeared to be blood.
Is that all blood that it's reacting to?
This could be blood that it's reacting to, yes. And that it appears that there's been some wiping or cleanup.
For Barbie Townsend, the most disturbing part was when the jury was shown a view of the Halderson home from a neighbor's security camera.
I was talking to one of my cousins. We said one of the images that is going to be seared in our minds is when they showed that video of the window.
Flickering window from July 2nd.
And it was the flickering glow from the fireplace for like hours. That is haunting, knowing what was happening.
A forensic expert testified that more than 200 bone fragments were discovered in the fireplace.
There's a white area in the middle of that burnt.
Based on my training experience, that appeared to be bone.
Halderson's defense attorney, Catherine Dorrell, did not address the bone and blood evidence found in the home, but insisted that did not mean her client was the killer.
Chandler Halderson did not murder his parents. He is not guilty of those crimes.
She reminded the jury there were too many unanswered questions.
What happened to the Haldersons? What happened in that Halderson's home? You just aren't going to know what happened.
Chandler Halderson himself didn't testify, and his defense didn't call any witnesses.
You have to go back and look at everything.
Instead, attorney Crystal Vera closed the case and urged jury to find reasonable doubt. She admits Halderson told a lot of lies, but she argues there isn't enough direct evidence to tie him to the murders.
I guarantee you that the 12 of you that are going to go back and deliberate are all going to have 12 different theories on what happened, and that's a problem. I'm asking you to find him not guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
Prosecutors had the final word.
This is a first-degree intentional homicide. You cannot shoot someone in the back. You cannot chop them up. You cannot scatter their remains and come to any other conclusion. And there is only one person who did those things here, and that is Chandler Halderson. And we're asking you to find him guilty. Thank you.
It didn't take long for the jury to decide.
Breaking news. In just about a little over 2 hours, a jury has reached a verdict in the Chandler Halderson case.
We, the jury, find the defendant Chandler M. Halderson guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as to Barday Halderson, guilty of providing false information, guilty of mutilating a corpse, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide, guilty of mutilating a corpse, guilty of hiding a corpse.
Guilty on all 8 charges.
I think it was just overwhelming from all the work that we put in on it.
In March 2022, at his sentencing hearing,
Good afternoon.
Halderson, who had been silent during his trial, surprised everyone by indicating he finally had something to say.
Mr. Halderson wishes to make a statement.
Your Honor, I want to take this opportunity to state my intent to appeal my convictions. If there are any lawyers listening and willing to take on my appeal, take a moment to please reach out to me. It's not that I do not have feelings. It's that I was warned to not show them due to the scrutiny of this case. Thank you.
What was your reaction when he had the chance to speak and all he did was ask for a lawyer to take an appeal? What was your reaction?
I was actually disgusted. I just couldn't believe it. Like, you can't even say I'm sorry.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Halderson was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
When do you miss him?
Oh, I think about him just about every day.
Really?
Yeah, we're building a pond in our backyard. You know, they would love to see that and love to be a part of it.
Mitchell Halderson, Bart and Krista's oldest son, is now living with an unimaginable loss. Barbie shared a text and this photo that Krista sent to the family just 3 months before she died.
Happy Easter. Yes, the boys and their women. Mitchell is still at Epic Systems and will turn 25 this year. Yikes. Chandler is currently interning with American Family Insurance as an IT administrator, but his other degree, sustainability management, has given him an edge. You see in her text how proud she was of her boys and how 100% completely believing Chandler.
She can't help but wonder what would have happened if Halderson had just been honest with everyone. If he had just gone and thrown himself at the mercy of his parents, what do you think Krista and Bart would have done?
They would have helped him. They definitely would have confronted him on it, but after the confrontation and the truth-telling would have come the grace. How do we go forward? How do we help you? How do we get your life back on track? They would have helped him.
CBS next Saturday. 48 Hours brings you back-to-back episodes all summer long. Next week, Vanished.
She disappears without a trace.
We thought we might have taken her here.
How many miles did you cover?
It was hundreds of miles.
48 Hours Crime Time double feature next Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.